What is going on YouTube? It's Jake, aka StarCoding, coming at you with yet another video where we're talking about computer science. Today, I'm retaking one of my certifications, the Azure Networking certification, and one of the main topics about networking in the cloud is virtual networks and what role they play. Every single enterprise and adequate software project that's made in the cloud is going to revolve around a virtual network. And I wanted to talk about why these virtual networks are important. So what VNets are originally about, or what they're kind of about, is access at the end of the day. When we make web apps, when we make websites on cloud providers, we are, making our code open to the public internet, which is really cool and really fascinating. Something that's it's always cool to have someone else use your code. But when we make, say, a website, yes, this website's going to be an orange box. There is this crazy thing called the internet that anyone can access, and anyone can access that web app. And if you're, if this is just a plain old simple web app, that's cool. They can access it. But usually, the more complicated your system is, your website, your web app, is going to start talking to other services and getting data dynamically. Static websites, their pages don't change. But if you look at ESPN.com, that's getting, live updates to the NFL game that's playing on right now, or the college football game that's playing right now, that website is making API calls and getting data. And so usually, if we're not using virtual networks, how could we do this? Well, we could have, a server chilling over here, and maybe make sure that this is still seeable on the screen. We have our handy dandy server that's hanging out, and this website is going to make a call to the internet, and the internet is going to find our server that has all of its data, and that server is going to send a response back to our web app like so over the internet. And that's cool. That is what makes the internet fascinating. It really doesn't matter where that web server is. If it was in Asia, if it was in Europe, if it has a IP address associated with it, I can ping it and potentially get some data back, which is awesome. But this is fine for your hobby projects, for school projects. But when we're talking about customers, when we're talking about enterprise solutions, we need an extra layer of protection, because honestly, it's cool that your web app is facing the internet, but it's not cool that your server with all your customers' data is facing the internet. We have IP addresses that exist in the world, and there's not a lot of them. I think I need to actually do a quick Google search. Yeah, so if we look at how many public IP addresses there are out there, there's only 4 billion. Just only 4 billion. And when you think about, just some guy that's enumerating over all the IP addresses that exist, you just go through 0 to 255, you just keep enumerating. Someone's going to be touching your SQL data, your database data, and that's why expose our servers to that? We shouldn't have our servers facing the public internet. They can be protected for just our one web app to use. And so that's why we're going to use virtual networks. So in cloud slang, when we start talking about making a virtual network, really what we're talking about is making resources in the cloud, but not exposing them to the public internet. So, for example, let's move this server. I think I can just copy and paste it like so. Let's get a little pull and copy paste. We'll put them over here. And so we just made this database in Azure and AWS, whatnot. And now we're going to make something called a virtual network. And we'll do this in dark blue. We'll call it a VNet. And what this guy is really doing is every single resource we make in the cloud is going to have a virtual network card associated with it. Not too specific into how the virtual network cards actually play a role and how it all works under the hood, but as a consumer of cloud services when I'm using them, usually how it works is now I can attach this web server, and we'll make its network card green. It has like a little network card here that's chilling, and it's going to connect to this virtual network as well as this database here, and it's also going to connect to this virtual network. And when we make these virtual networks, really what we're making is a range of IP addresses. We're making a pool of addresses that only devices in this VNet can now talk to. Instead of like this giant conglomerate cloud called the internet being able to access and go in here, well, now we're saying we're making a VNet and only devices that are configured to talk to this VNet can talk to each other. And so what this means is now, if I wanted to fetch data from this database, my API could go over this VNet, talk to the database, and get a response back eventually. And only this web app would be able to do it, or only devices attached to the virtual network could be able to do that. And that's where the virtual network comes into play. It's going to be a part of every single cloud project that is meaningful, simply because it adds that extra layer of security and convenience. You know, and even within this virtual network, we can create subdomains. We can make subnets, pretty much little boxes in here that could also, you know, better encapsulate our resources if we had, you know, virtual machines, or if we had some sort of other database, some sort of messaging service, some sort of API service. We could, you know, make it to where we can control who's talking to who instead of having this giant cloud of users come in and mess around with things. So at the end of the day, these virtual networks are going to be super helpful for controlling who has access to what resources. It doesn't expose what doesn't need to be exposed to the internet, and you can have that control over where your packets are going. You can be the network freaking waterbender of your enterprise, of your organization. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Like and subscribe. Peace.